Hey everybody, it's Galmadex and welcome back to some more Magic Green, and today I'll be playing another draft of Innistrad Midnight Hunt. See what we've got here? Definitely not a powerful rare, just a mana fixing land here. But we've got some pretty good commons here. I do like Search Party Captain and Ardent Elementalists a lot. These are both 4-mana creatures that give you some value when they enter the battlefield. Elementalist is a 2/1, but it brings back a good instant or sorcery from your graveyard, or I guess just any instant or sorcery. Ideally, you cast a good cheap removal spell, then cast this on turn 4 afterwards, so you've still got that removal spell back up for later, so a good deal there. And the Search Party Captain can get a nice cost reduction when attacking with it. That being said, I don't love starting with just a common here, and I do really like Rite of Oblivion in the black-white decks. You have a lot of tokens to sacrifice to this kind of card, and it's 2 removal spells in one if you have the mana to flash it back. So I'll take the Rite of Oblivion here. I think it's a good enough removal spell to take the dual-colored card in the pick 1 there, and hopefully it'll pan out well for us here. Now we have a Ghoulish Procession, which does work well when you have a lot of things to sacrifice your cards. Now, whenever one or more non-token creatures are dying, you're getting a 2/2 zombie with Decayed, so with a lot of sacrifice outlets, you have good ways to use those zombie tokens, and this should trigger pretty often, giving you a lot of value that way. So I like the Ghoulish Procession here to follow up the Rite of Oblivion. Now we have just a good cheap removal spell, Olivia's Midnight Ambush. -2/-2 or -13/-13 during the night. The Heirloom Mirror looks pretty powerful, but the card has performed pretty poorly for me. It's just very, very slow. Ideally, after a few turns of using this card, it will be attacking as a big old 4/4 flyer, but your opponent always knows that it's coming, so they can hold their removal for when it does flip, and when it does flip, it doesn't untap itself, so it will be a tapped 4/4 flyer 3 turns after activating the mirror, so this card's just been way too slow for me. I'm going to take just the good cheap removal. And now we have Rotting Reunion, which has been okay. It is 2 Decayed Zombies off of the 1 card, and if you happen to be playing against Flashback or Disturb, being able to exile cards from your opponent's graveyard can actually work really well. I definitely don't like Sunset Revelry very much. It's only good in like really controlling slow decks, because then your opponent will be playing more cards and creatures and hitting you early game, so this can gain 4 life and draw a card. But if you're the faster deck in the matchup, all this really does is draw a card. So I don't love it. Yeah, I guess I'll just go Rotten Reunion. I have not loved Candletrap either, and in white and black, I feel like we should hopefully be able to get better removal, ideally. Now we have a Vampire Interloper if we want to get aggressive. This is a very aggressive card here. It can't block, but it puts a clock on your opponent, dealing 2 damage to them a turn with its evasive power. It's that or the Gavany Trapper we can use to just keep things tapped down. Trapper being a 2-mana activated ability, we don't want to get our mana all synced up in that kind of stuff, so it's not the kind of card you're going to want 2 or 3 copies of, so I feel like I'm going to take the Interloper here and take cards like Trapper later, since it's really a one-of kind of card. Plus, this way we're much heavier into black than white, so it's possible in the second pack we can even pivot into black in some other color. Like here I'm going to take Defenestrate, just a great black removal spell, 3 mana instant speed, destroy a creature without flying, and again we have a single white card in here, so it's highly possible we could change colors, but if we're going to get a Flesh Taker pick 7, that's a relatively good sign that black-white sacrifice is wide open, and we're in the correct lane here. This is the gold uncommon for the strategy, just does a lot of good stuff. Even if you're not sacrificing creatures to its 1-mana ability to give it +2/+2, you're still gaining the 1 life and scrying 1, so when your Decayed Zombies are dying naturally, you'll be scrying 1 and gaining life. Really, really good card. Happy to take Flesh Taker here. And now we can take Clarion Cathars. Good for the sacrifice strategy. Gives you that 3/3 body plus a 1/1 sacrificial fodder for 4 mana. Now we have Search Party Captain or Bereaved Survivor. Again, I have mentioned this a few times when I've seen this card. I've tried it a couple times, really haven't been impressed with this. It just feels like by the time it flips and gets an attack off, your opponent has the creatures to block it to stop you from getting much going on there. They'll just kill it as soon as it attacks, and probably whatever it brings back from the grave, so I much prefer Search Party Captain here. And Well, I guess if we can have both, why not both? Although the 2-mana 3/1 might also be solid here. How many creatures do we have? We only have 2 creatures at 2 mana. We could grab a commando, but this card's not super exciting. It is main deckable Artifact Enchantment Hate, which is nice, but at this point I will probably try out Bereaved Survivor. I think the Cathar's Commandos tend to go late. Blessed Defiance, definitely better than Duress here. Duress just unplayable and limited. You just can't rely on your opponent having a non-creature, non-land card in hand at all times. Or at any times, really. Well, super late Candle Trap, I guess we'll take it. But, might end up cutting it. Same with these Blessed Defiances here. They're okay in this strategy because they are like a combat trick where your creature will now trade up into something else and it'll replace the creature with a token. So this is really the color scheme for this kind of combat trick, making sure you still have a creature on board after that combat, but we'll just see if we need that kind of spell as things progress here. So couple really good options. I think the 2 that I like here are the Diregraph Horde. This has just been a pretty good finisher. 5 mana for a 3/4 that comes with 2 Decayed Zombies, so it can do a lot of damage on the 1 attack. 3 power creature plus 2 2-power creatures. That's 7 power on the board for 5. Of course, you can only attack with them once, but sometimes that's all you need. And then there's Olivia's Midnight Ambush, just another great cheap removal spell. 2 mana for -2/-2 or better during the night. I think I'm taking Midnight Ambush, but there's an argument for the Diregraph Horde. I feel like we'll get these later in the packs than the efficient removal, though. We'll definitely see here. And now, well, Siege Zombie's a fantastic way to use the Decayed Zombie tokens that we have a few of with Ghoulish Procession, Rotten Reunion, and cards like that. That being said, we already have some good ways to use them. We have Flesh Taker and Rite of Oblivion that'll let us sacrifice them, and we have a pretty choice uncommon here, Gavany Dawnguard, 3 mana for a 3/3 with Ward 1, and it starts the day and night cycle, allowing us to look at the top 4 cards of our library and grab a creature with value 3 or less from among them every time we flip between day and night. So Gavany Dawnguard going to be pretty sweet. We already do have a decent amount of instants as well, and instants are the best way to flip from day to night, because flipping to night requires you to not cast a spell during your own turn. So if you have instants, you can actually just still cast a spell for the turn, just cast it in your opponent's turn. So pretty good start to flipping a lot. There is an Eaten Alive here, which is a good removal spell, but I think we're doing pretty well on that front. We have Defenestrate, 2 Midnight Ambush, and a Rite of Oblivion, so I think I can pass that up for the Siege Zombie here. This does really feel like a premier common for any deck with token production or Decayed Zombies, and that's certainly what Black-White's trying to do. It's between that and probably Morning Patrol. This is just a pretty good deal. 3 mana for the 2/3, and then 4 mana for the 2/1, recasting it from your grave. But I'm going to go with the Siege Zombie there. Ooh, and here I'm happy to take another Rite of Oblivion. That being said, there are other excellent cards for us in this pack, both Search Party Captain and Novice Occultist being nice ways to get a little value off your creatures as you're playing them, and the Beloved Beggar here becoming a really threatening card later in the game. Plus we can sacrifice the Beggar and bring it back with its Disturb ability later in the game. So I'm going to take the Rite of Oblivion there. And, ooh, choice uncommon here. Audric's Outrider, 4 mana for a 2/4. Whenever the Outrider or another creature you control dies, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. Excellent, excellent card with all of the Decayed Zombie tokens. As they die, you're getting permanent +1/+1 counters out of them. Really, really buffs any cards that make zombies, like Ghoulish Procession. That's why I keep mentioning the zombies so dang much, is because every single card we take that combos with them is making our Ghoulish Procession that much better. So, really happy to take Audric's Outrider here. And pick 6 here. Unruly Mob, Vampire Interloper, Shady Traveler. These are all fine. Celestis Sanctifier a little less exciting than them. How are we doing on the 2 mana creatures? We have Siege Zombie, Interloper, Flesh Taker. We've got 3. Could go for another 2 mana creature, probably over the Traveler. But this is a solid card. 3 mana, 2/3 menace, not a bad deal. Sometimes it's a 4/4 menace. I think I'll take the Unruly Mob here. Just great with the sacrifice kind of stuff we're doing as our creatures are dying. It's getting bigger and bigger. We already have one Candle Trap that I'm not excited about playing. Duress is unplayable, and Hedge Witch's Mask is unexciting, so the 3 mana 3/2 it is. Very filler creature there, but you do need a good amount of creatures. Well, I love me a Dreadhound. 6 mana for a 6/6. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards, and whenever a creature dies or is put into a graveyard from a library, each opponent loses a life. It's like Sir Conrad the Grim from Eldraine, if you ever played with that card. Very powerful card. 6 power and toughness for 6 mana, often the biggest creature on board. And it has a really nice triggered ability to drain your opponent out just as the game progresses from there. If the board state's pretty stalled out. Here I'd rather take Clarion Cathars than the Veteran. I guess this would be the deck for Veteran, being a sacrifice deck here. So maybe Cathars is less exciting, but Cathars is also the kind of card for this deck. Definitely happy to take a Cathar Commando here. I do like having that main deck artifact enchantment hate. Even if the stat line's not so good, being only 1 toughness is always a huge bummer. It trades with anything it gets in combat with. So if your opponent happens to play something like Clarion Cathars and they get a 1/1 human token on the board, you're always going to be sad about your 3/1s. And heading into pack 3 here, I'm feeling really good about this deck. I suppose we don't really have any bomb power. We don't have much going in terms of like rares, big bomb-worthy cards, but our synergy looks pretty sweet. Lots of good removal. So the only thing I'm really missing out on here would be like just high impact, just one big bomb. And we don't open that here, we open a blue card, so that's not going to happen. Kind of want to just take another Siege Zombie here, although Hobbling Zombie, great for this kind of strategy. 2 creatures off the 1 card. Of course, the one it replaces itself with is just a Decayed Zombie, but we can make good use of them with this deck. I think it's between those two. Those seem more exciting than these white creatures here. I'm going to go with another Siege Zombie here. I'm just always super happy with it. Ooh, excellent stuff out of this pack. There's the Hobbling Zombie that I was talking about earlier. Ecstatic Awakener. A great way to use those Decayed Zombies. Turn this into a 4/4 and draw a card. Ambitious Farmhand, just an exceptional deal here. 2 mana for a 1/1. Draw planes from your library when you cast it. And if you have 3 powers, 3 creatures with different powers on board, you flip this into a 3/3 lifelinker. I think I'm going to take the Ambitious Farmhand. It's kind of like a 2 mana 1/1 that draws a card and then flips into a 3/3 lifelinker. Sure, it always draws a planes, but that still puts you up a card and makes you curve out more consistently to your like 4 or 5 mana cards. I am a big fan of the Farmhand. And we'll scoop it up here. Well, pretty easy pick here. Infernal Grasp is an exceptional removal spell. Just 2 mana, instant speed, destroy target creature, lose 2 life. Sure, you're losing 2 life, but being able to kill any creature for 2 mana at instant speed is just a hugely good deal. If we didn't have that in the pack, we'd probably just scoop another Dreadhound up, although that instant there was a solid draw spell. Unfortunately, Unnatural Growth, got to be very, very heavy in green for it, so we're not going to splash that in, as cool as that looks. I do like seeing that card, though. Now we could take the Lunarch Veteran, I guess, or we could take our 1 copy of Trapper if we want to throw that in the deck. Don't want a second Soul Guide Gryph, I feel. Let's go with the Lunarch Veteran here, I think. Ooh, this is a much better 1-drop. The Chaplain of Alms, a better deal on the first and second half of the card. The first half is a 1/1 first strike with Ward 1. The second half, a 4 mana 2/1 flying first strike that gives your whole board Ward 1. That being said, there's also another Defenestrate here. This is an excellent pack. Novice Occultist being solid in these sacrifice decks as well. I guess I'm on Defenestrate, right? Yeah, 17 creatures already. Let's grab a Defenestrate then. 17's enough, so feels bad to pass up on that Disturb creature, but Defenestrate's just a great removal spell. And here I'll take an Ecstatic Awakener. Now we'll get a pretty solid 1-drop, since we missed out on one there in that pack. Another Awakener, a Morcrep Behemoth, Blood Pact for some card draw, Cathar's Commando for another artifact enchantment removal spell. Real good on 2 mana stuff. Let's grab another finisher here. We're looking low on the big late game cards. So we'll grab a big old 7/6 Menace Behemoth. And another Unruly Mob, don't mind if I do. Pretty easy pick there. Now we have Morning Patrol or Clarion Cathars. We have 2 Cathars already, so let's grab our first copy of the Morning Patrol. And a Novice Occultist. Alright, getting a lot of choices in this last pack. We're going to have a lot of cards to cut here. Now we even get to pick up one of these draw spells. Just an instant speed divination, 3 mana, draw 2 and lose 2. And I guess we do get the Soul Guide Gryph as well if we want it. Not a fan of discard spells usually, so that's why I always pass on the No Way Outs. Another Cathar Commando, not horrible. And a Sun Gold Barrage, also not terrible, but we're probably cutting those because we have enough less conditional removal. I wouldn't say unconditional removal, like our Defenestrates can't kill flyers, and our Midnight Ambushes can only kill like 2 toughness or less creatures unless it's nighttime, so most of our removal is somewhat conditional, but not as conditional as Sun Gold Barrages, so probably cutting those before anything else in this deck. Now, cutting 15 cards, our colors were wide open. Happy to have been white-black here, good lord. Well, we have to cut 15 cards, and as much as this deck can use some Decayed Zombies, I don't know if I want a card that's dedicated just making 2 of them. Don't know if I want the combat tricks in here either. We have 24 creatures here. Your standard limited deck is about 17 creatures, 6 non-creatures, as a decent baseline if you don't want to think too hard about it, and you know how I am. Small brain power. We're going to go for probably just 17/6 average here. So that would mean cutting 4 more non-creatures. Probably Blood Pact, Candle Trap for sure because our other removal's better. And then probably okay going a little bit low on the creature count just because of the sheer quality of these non-creatures. I think all of these non-creatures are just fantastic and worth running a few less creatures for. And I suppose one of these non-creature cards is kind of creatures. It's the Ghoulish Procession here. It is going to be producing creatures at least. So, yeah, I'm going to keep all of these in here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I guess we have 8 non-creatures then at that point. But we might run a 16 land deck here because our curve is pretty low. A lot of 2 mana stuff. We'll see how the deck pans out. So 9 cards to cut now. Lunarch Veteran, Ecstatic Awakener. I like the Awakener a lot better than the Veteran, but the Veteran is good sacrificial fodder. Farmhand's definitely great. The Commandos are nice, but they make some of the least sense in this deck. As does the Interloper, to be fair. I guess we have an aggressive curve, but I don't know if I want creatures that can't block in this strategy here. Let's get rid of the Interloper. Maybe the Commandos. Odric's Outsider and Search Party Captains are exceptional, so I'm kind of feeling like cutting some Cathars maybe. Cut 1 Cathars, 1 Soul Guide Gryph here. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 2-mana creatures and 2 1-mana creatures. 19 creatures total right now. Definitely cut at least 2 more. You know, I guess I'm gonna have a little bit of a weird curve here, which I don't always love. I'm just gonna go through and cut the 4 cards that are just like the lowest individual card value, like the weakest cards for their mana costs, like Ritual Guardian here, just a 3 mana 3/2, definitely worse than the 3 mana 3/3 that maybe draws us more cards, worse than the 3 mana 2/3 that's also a 4 mana 2/1, worse than the 3 mana 2/1 that could bring a card back. So Ritual Guardian, not a fan of. Probably the weakest 3-drop there. Weakest 4-drop, probably Cathars, but I feel like all of these at 4, 5, and 6 are okay. I really don't want to cut the unruly mobs, but I definitely don't want to cut the farmhand. Definitely don't want to cut the siege zombies. Don't want to cut the flesh taker. Could maybe cut an occultist and a Lunarch veteran, and then we have 1 cut to go. I suppose theoretically we don't actually have that much to sacrifice to the Awakener. Sure, we go off when we have Ghoulish Procession, but other than that, we don't make a single creature token until we have 4 mana. Actually not loving the Awakener here at this point, in which case we might throw the Veteran back in. Let's take another look at these two, now that we're not going for Awakener. With Rite of Oblivion, I do really like having just a cheap Disturb card like Lunarch Veteran in here, even if it's pretty small impact by itself. We also have Flesh Taker working with it. Could cut down to 1 Unruly Mob. The games where we have Unruly Mob out and Ghoulish Procession out, we're going to be living the dream, but we have 1 copy of Ghoulish Procession and not a lot of Decayed token producing otherwise. Like, that's pretty much the 1 card that makes Decayed zombies. So I could maybe even see cutting both Unruly Mobs, because that's the one time they're great, otherwise they're just decent. Throw 1 card back in. I accidentally cut a Morcrit Behemoth at some point, but I'm kind of okay with that cut, because we don't have a lot of incredibly expendable creatures. But I think I do want to put that back in over anything else. And then this would be the deck. See what non-creatures we had out of here. We did have a Blood Pact for a good draw spell. It's about the only non-creature I'm considering here. Still have 5 2-mana creatures and a 1-mana creature, so we're still curving out early well. And our curve does look really good here, and we have a lot of great removal. Yeah, this seems pretty great to me. Yeah. Let's roll with this deck here and see how we do in the gameplay. Very excited to run with this one. This is one of the most synergistic decks it looks like we've drafted. Sure, we're low on like tokens, but even just having a good curve of small creatures throughout the game, somewhat expendable creatures, we're going to have a pretty good time with this, I feel. And of course, just a mountain of great removal. So I'm going to keep this hand even though we don't have white mana. We do have Infernal Grasp and Defenestrate. So we've got a lot of great removal to keep us alive till we hit the white source. And of course, the big game-ending Dreadhound. So Delver of Secrets will start things. I'm not going to Infernal Grasp that unless it flips immediately. The Delver, they look at the top card of their library. If it's an instant or sorcery, they flip it to a 3/2 flyer. But often it can take quite a while for that to happen, just statistically with your average limited deck. It's kind of just a 1-mana 1/1 for quite a while. 2 Delvers though, so when they flip, they're both going to flip. So question here is, how likely is it I'm going to want to remove these Delvers at some point? I have 1 Soul Guide Griff that's a 3/4 flyer in the deck, but if we don't draw that, we're pretty low on flyers, so we're going to want to kill them at some point. Because we're going to want to kill them at some point, I think I should kill one right now. Like, once they flip, we're going to want to kill them for sure. Alright. The Defenestrate can't kill them when they flip, and I'm not sure if I can respond to them flipping. I probably can't respond, so I should probably Defenestrate right now, but I also don't want to run out of all my removal. I guess we're playing a 2-2 and drawing a card next turn, so it's probably alright. We're still going to be loaded with cards to play. Vampire Interloper, 2/1 flyer that can't block. Odric's Outright is pretty great, but mainly at blocking, so let's just draw the card right now. Creatures aren't really going to be dying and putting +1/+1 counters everywhere currently. They have a creature that can't block and can't be blocked, so combat is not really happening right now. We'll cast our Outrider next turn. Alright, well, passing with 4 mana up here. Probably just a counter spell from our opponent. I don't know if I'd rather they counter the Outrider or the Dawn Guard here. I'd probably rather have them counter the Outrider, because we don't actually have that many creatures in hand right now, and the Dawn Guard can draw us more creatures and keep us fueled. Whereas the Outrider is like good if we have a ton of stuff on the board, which we don't and likely won't. So I'm just going to cast the Outrider. It probably draws their counterspell from them, because if they don't counter this, then they spent their turn doing nothing. If that's what their plan was here, was just to counter. Alright, their plan was to use a removal spell, so we do get the +1/+1 counter out of the Outrider, so that's very nice. Ooh, Drowned Amalgam, though, going to be a 3/6, gonna wall off our Search Party Captain. That's not going to be attacking it anymore, so we're just going to take that 2 damage every turn from the Interloper, and it's going to mill us when it comes into play, unfortunately milling our 1 Flesh Taker. Well, Soul Guide Gryff is the draw, so we can block their flyer now, although I can also just play a 6/6 and block their 3/6 on the ground if they don't give it unblockable for 3 mana. So I want to play the 6/6 on the ground first here, I think. I guess the Gryff stops both attacks unless they pay mana. So the question is if I'm more worried about stopping every single bit of damage or starting to get aggressive, and I think I'd rather start getting aggressive. 13 isn't that much life, but I don't think it's too low. I think we can take a hit here. Maximum of 5 unblockable damage. Because now we've even drawn a removal spell with the Rite of Oblivion, which is excellent. But yeah, we crack back for 9 if they don't get a blocker out. They do, and it's a Siege Zombie, so it's a painful blocker. Ooh, Lunarch Veteran's actually an exceptional draw here. We gain a life as we play our creatures now. So we gain a life off the Soul Guide Gryff, and the Gryff blocks the Interloper. So we're going to have some static life gain triggers throughout this game, and they're going to have life loss triggers from my Dreadhound hitting them. Feeling very good about our spot now. Even if their card in hand is removal, we just take 5 and go to 7. Or, my brain died. We just take 5 and go to 4. We have a pretty good crackback. We also have a removal spell for their biggest unblockable creature. Feeling pretty good here. That little bit of life gain from the Lunarch Veteran actually going to go a long way to making me feel safe here. But the biggest part being the Soul Guide Gryff being able to block their Interloper. A Siege Zombie of our own. We're at 6 life. We can gain 2 life here and go to 8. They have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 power on the board. We could just attack all here and see what happens. Like, they block Veteran, and they can't block anything else. So they don't block Veteran here. They block the 6/6, take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then Siege Zombie comes in and kills them? Actually, if they chump block Dreadhound, they lose a life from Dreadhound's ability, and they have to chump block Dreadhound, so they take 1 there, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Play Siege Zombie, Gavany Dawn Guard, and tap 3 creatures to ping them for 1 life. That'll be lethal. No, Revenge of the Drowned. Alright, well this would have been lethal if their last card in hand was a land. Unfortunately, it is not. We're still going to put this on top of our library here. Because when we cast it again, we mill 3 cards and probably do some damage to them with that. So they go down to 2. They have... So we lose a life to Siege Zombie, so we're basically at 5, and then they unblockable us for 5. So at 5, we go up to 6 by casting a zombie, 7 by casting a Dawn Guard. Or we could go to 6 by casting Zombie, then sacrifice something to Rite of Oblivion to also get rid of Amalgam. I feel like that's safer because Dreadhound's coming up, and Dreadhound's just going to be lethal when we cast it. So as long as we live to next turn... Yeah, as long as we survive to next turn, we're good. So we're actually even going to sacrifice one of our tapped creatures, just so we have as many blockers as possible to block the Decayed Zombie token and the Siege Zombie. Just play it really safe here, because we know they're just dead to us casting Dreadhound. Even if it doesn't kill them on the mill trigger, it makes it so even if they block and kill any of our creatures, or block and chump block any of our creatures, they lose a life for every creature dying. So Dreadhound's just definite lethal next turn. Just do everything we can to survive this turn, then. I suppose if they draw another card that mills us, they mill our Dreadhound, or if they draw a counterspell, they counter it. But they need to stop our Soulguide Gryph as well, so it has to be something that counters our Dreadhound and blocks our Gryph. The odds of that are just exceptionally small. Let's see. Throwing that Dreadhound on the stack. It resolves. We gain a life, make them lose some life here. We'll see how much. Okay, 0 life right there, but they will lose life when they chump block or when our creatures die on the attacks, so we'll attack with everybody. Startle, lower the Gryph's power, so this Gryph's just doing 1 damage, but because of Dreadhound's ability, even if they block the rest of it, creatures dying will finish it off. Alright. So, well, Lunarch Veteran definitely overperformed in that game. Not the kind of card I'm usually that excited about, just a little Soul Warden style effect, but actually put in work there, and we didn't even disturb it. We didn't even cast it twice. We just cast the front half of the card. That being said, in the end, I don't think that the life gain ended up being super necessary, although I'd have to go back and do the math. Actually, it probably did, because they probably had enough to where they could have hit us unblockable for lethal without it. Alright, I'm very excited about this hand. We get to try the Ghoulish Procession thing this game, so I'm pretty pumped about that. Our opponent starts with red. I'd rather play a creature before I play Ghoulish Procession, and I'd rather play a creature they probably don't use their cheap red removal on, so I'm just going to play the farmhand. Because I doubt they kill the farmhand here. I doubt they just like Moonrager slash this or something. Whereas if I played a Siege Zombie, they might just kill it. Alright, they foul play the farmhand. Unexpected, but I will take it. The idea was, like, we're not going to have Coven for quite a while, so this is not that much of a threat for a while, but they happen to have a removal spell that also makes a clue token for them to draw a card, so they probably just really wanted to get that clue token out and start drawing. So that panned out a little awkwardly. They have another cheap removal spell here, or they could also just have, like, a hand of entirely removal, in which case they just throw it all out there. Ardent Elementalist, yeah, that's pretty much what they have here. Ardent Elementalist brings back a removal spell. It's bringing back the removal spell that draws them another card, so our opponent is going to be drowning in some card draw here. Well, we've got no other creatures on board, so we're actually okay trading Siege Zombie off and getting a zombie out of it, but we have Rite of Oblivion, that's 2 more removal spells, so Midnight Ambush to clear that out. Get a Decayed token and hit for 2 here seems almost definitely better. And now if they do foul play the Siege Zombie, we get another Decayed token. And we can use these tokens, if nothing else, to cast our Rite of Oblivion. And with Audric's Outrider, can also get some +1/+1 counters on our stuff. So this only triggers when non-token creatures die. This triggers when any creature dies. So we could hit them for 4 and make Outrider a 4/8, but then we don't have expendable creatures for our Rite of Oblivion, so I don't like doing that. With Rite of Oblivion in hand, I think it's pretty important to keep these expendable Decayed tokens around. And they do just have a Defenestrate to kill our Outrider anyway, so had we gone for it there, we would be really out of luck here. We'd have a Rite of Oblivion hand with no creatures on board. I guess we'd have one zombie. Alright, Lunarch Veteran is the draw. Shady Traveler on their board. Kind of like trading into that with a zombie here. With our Rite of Oblivion. I guess we could sacrifice the Lunarch Veteran, then we get one more Decayed Zombie because of Ghoulish Procession, but don't know if that's worth spending one of the halves of this card. Because then we like bring it back as a 1/1 flyer, but can't bring it back later after that. Yeah, I would rather just get rid of one of our zombies, I think. So our opponent's gotten some really good value here. Their Foul Play is a 2-for-1 every time they cast it, and they got to cast it twice from Ardent Elementalist, which means Ardent Elementalist itself was also a 2-for-1. So they definitely still have stuff to play, things to do here. We could very much run out of cards. Hoping we don't. Suppose we'll see. Actually, I guess with the disparity in cards here, with our opponent having drawn a lot more than us, I probably should have just held on to the Rite of Oblivion. But, there's no way out of it here. Now they're just going to take another Foul Play and draw another card again. Ardent Elementalist draws a card when they play it. Yeah, no, this is some major value plays from our opponent. I suppose, I mean, this is a disturbed creature, so we get to cast it twice, so this isn't that lopsided. It's not as bad as the first time they used an Ardent Elementalist on their Foul Play. But it's certainly not good. Certainly not good for us here. Good lord. Yeah, I guess they just took every black and red removal spell in their draft pod. It is a definite strategy you can use to win with Ardent Elementalists. Ardent Elementalists are one of the better red commons. I don't remember if I mentioned that in this video, but I do mention it a decent bit. The Elementalist is quite sweet. It's like the red version of the Party Captain, but it always draws a good card. Alright, well, we're just taking one a turn from the Flyers. I think we just let that happen. Hold on to this Grasp for something else later. There is a discard 2 card in black here, so we could hold on to 2 lands, just in case they're running that. I doubt that they are, but I have gotten got by that card before. I've had to discard 4 cards in one game to that card. That was a bad day. Down to 13 here. Arrogant Outlaw. We lose 2 more life and they gain 2 life. And it's a 3/2 on the board. Gavany Dawnguard is exactly the kind of card I'm looking for right now, because that will potentially draw us more cards whenever it flips between day and night. So now I kind of do want to Infernal Grasp, because then I'll cast 2 cards here and we'll flip to day when we pass turn. So the question is what creature I want to kill here. Our 2/2 can trade into the 3/2, but this 3/3, we don't want this 3/3 to get in combat, so I feel like I still don't want to kill the bat, because if I just kill the bat here, they can attack with a 4/2 and a 3/2, and one of these is getting in. Sure, I trade off one time, but the other gets in, so I'm actually going to kill the 4/2 here. But I'm going to kill one right now, so again, we flip to day and draw a card here. Do draw a Novice Occultist. A 1/2, when it dies we draw a card and lose a life. The life loss is a bit scary here in this board state. Take that trade because we get a decayed zombie out of it. Not super happy with it since our 1-2 could trade there, but I also don't want to take any more damage than I have to. Now we have Defenestrate here. Could cast Defenestrate at instant speed to get rid of the Covetous Geist, but that will come back as a Flying Death Toucher. So they Disturb to recast that, and we're having a terrible time. Huh. I want to flip Tonight to draw a card off of Dawnguard again, so I think we're going to Defenestrate their Outlaw. And maybe block the Cut Purse and let their Flying Death Touch come out and hopefully draw some good stuff to deal with it. Because we can't just let it slam in for 2 every turn when we're at 8 life here. So yeah, pass turn so that no spells are cast here and it goes to nighttime. Flesh Taker's perfect. Flesh Taker is going to use all these decayed zombies to gain a bunch of life and scry a bunch. Flesh Taker can really get us out of this one if our opponent isn't lucky on the draws here. Alright, they kill the Dawnguard. That's okay. That's not the end of the world. Unfortunately, the Procession triggers once each turn, and I do really need to Defenestrate to not die here, so we're not going to get the second zombie for max value off of the Defenestrate, but just getting that Flesh Taker off of the Gavany Dawnguard was a huge deal here. So Occultist trades for Cut Purse. Sure, they get a flyer, but we're going to gain a bunch of life and scry a bunch of cards. Whenever we sacrifice a creature, we gain a life and scry 1. So it happens whether or not we're doing it to Flesh Taker's ability. See, I think we're just going to trade there when they attack. So we could send some zombies in to gain some life and scry some cards. Because it'll do just as much damage whether or not we give Flesh Taker +2/+2 or just hit them for 2. So I think I send all those in and just hit them for 2 a bunch. Because it's the exact equivalent as if I sacrificed all of these to Flesh Taker. Except this time I'm not paying any mana. So gain a life, scry 1, Clarion Cathars. Alright, well, we're just going to keep putting Clarion Cathars on top here because it's more life gain for Flesh Taker and more damage for Flesh Taker. It's another zombie from Ghoulish Procession because we can sacrifice the non-token part. Alright, and now we're up to 9 here and they're down to 11. Feels good. I actually probably should have attacked with the 3/3 zombie too. Just like might as well there if I'm cashing them in for damage, especially because the 3/3 is doing more damage than it would have if we sacrificed it to Flesh Taker. I actually just hold up blocks here. Alright. Fair enough. Flesh Taker's really scary to run up against. I suppose, ooh, what I didn't realize there is seeing that Cathars was on top, I could have sacrificed the Occultist to Flesh Taker to draw it immediately and cast it for 4. I should have done that there. I like sacrificing Occultist now, though, still, because we get a zombie this turn. Really should have done this in our last end step. There's a lot of triggers and stuff, and interesting ways we can use these cards, which is very cool, but also it's going to confuse me. So here's Cathars. Flesh Taker's not lethal, but it's terrifying. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Flesh Taker's actually lethal because the Cathars will spit out another zombie. So if they don't block Flesh Taker, they die. If they do block it, we kill whatever they block it with. So they probably block with Cut Purse. Send in the Decayed Zombies as well. Okay, so they do block with the Cut Purse. I think we sacrifice Cathars here. since we spit out a creature from procession. I guess the cut purse is going to spit out a creature with procession. Never mind. Sacrifice a token here because we're getting a zombie either way. A creature is dying this turn. It's just on their board instead of ours. It's the same amount of damage from the zombie token, whether it hits them or Flesh Taker hits them. Actually, I'm losing my mind. Actually, completely losing my mind here. The Flesh Taker's not hitting them. So it's less damage this way. Should have sacrificed the 1/1. We're playing a brain-meltingly confusing deck to me here today. But it's okay, because the synergies are super powerful and they will ride us on to victory here, maybe. Hopefully. They get to play a Flying Death Toucher here to Death Touch away our Flesh Taker, but the Olivia's Midnight Ambush is the perfect draw, because the Midnight Ambush will clear that out of the way. And then they will not have a Death Toucher to clear out our Flesh Taker. See, I played last turn like a fool, like a complete fool. Absolute buffoon. I should have sacrificed the 1/1 token. We shouldn't have sacrificed the Cathars because a non-token creature was already going to die to give us a Decayed Zombie, and we shouldn't have sacrificed the attacking Decayed Zombie because the attacking Decayed Zombie was not blocked, so they would have been at 6 life instead. Sure, we wouldn't have a 1/1 untap to block with, but we have a 3/3 untap to block with, and we're at 10 life against 3 power on their board. Should have absolutely just sacrificed the 1/1 there. See, this is where our opponent has the advantage. They're thinking. I am not. Light up the night. For 11 damage to my face is the choice. Well, we could sacrifice 2 cards to gain 2 life here. We have to sacrifice 3 cards to survive here. I think we sacrifice Cathars now. We're going to have to sacrifice Cathars. We have to sacrifice 3 cards to live because we take 1 in the sky. So we need to sacrifice Cathars either way, so we can sacrifice Cathars and 2 Decayed Zombies this way. But we're actually... We're not dead now, but we're so close. Because they can attack with both to threaten 2 damage, but I can block their 2/1 and then sacrifice our 1/1. We go to 1 after all this. Whoo! Alright. Unfortunately... we are just dead now. Right? Not quite. We shoot one of their creatures down with Olivia's Midnight Ambush. And then... we get a token from Ghoulish Procession to sacrifice to gain 1 life. Yeah, we're not dead here. Do we hit for 4 on the attack? Or do we wait on the sacrifice? I think we hit for 4 on the attack and we hope to scry well here. If we wait on the ambush, it's possible they main phase 1 the Geist, but they're playing really well. I expect they're going to cast Covetous Geist main phase 2, in which case we'll have to kill one of these pre-combat either way. I guess we can kill... if we wait till their turn, we can kill the bat, get a 2/2 Decayed. No, we can't get a 2/2 Decayed if we kill the bat, because the bat's a token. So our only option is to kill the Perforator, so it's not like we can kill the bat, make our Flesh Taker a 4/4 and block the Perforator. That's just not a thing we can do, because the bat is a token, so it won't trigger Procession. Okay, so, yeah, so our only line here is to just shoot Perforator. And the only question is when we sack the zombie, and I think we sack it right now, because if we just wait on it, we're not getting the bonus damage from it. We might as well get the bonus damage, because it's not like we can block the flyer here. See what the scry hits. Moorcrypt Behemoth isn't going to be quick enough. So we're at 2. like they're going to have a 2/2 flying death touch to block with, so they're going to hit us to 1 life and have a 2/2 death touch to block with. And they're going to be at 4. So if we play a behemoth, we're just going to play it attack into a 2/2 death touch and then die to the flyer. So we have to put this on bottom. And then we pass. Oh, come on. I'm gonna end up with the top deck like that. Well, potentially had one more draw step after all of that thinking, but our opponent had a draw step as well, and that draw step just drew 2 damage to us. So, I mean, that works. That certainly works. 1-1 it shall be. They would have been at 2 life had I played correctly with that Decayed Zombie, so we still would have lost that game, luckily. Or I say luckily. Just because it would feel really, really bad if that 2 damage, that 2 extra damage we would have got by sacrificing the 1/1 would have mattered there. I guess we actually needed the 1/1 to block with to survive another turn there. So maybe we would have actually died faster. Thinking differently there. One big thing that I'm going to take into account in this game is I'm actually just going to slam down Ghoulish Procession before I play any creatures. I feel like it might be better to just start grinding out for the late game value immediately rather than trying to get aggressive, because the fact that they got to kill multiple of our creatures without us getting random Decayed Zombies was somewhat of a big deal. That being said, I'm going to kill this before they get any +1/+1 counters on their vampires. I literally just said I should Ghoulish Procession before any creatures start dying, but if we don't kill this immediately, the next vampire they play comes in with a +1/+1 counter on it, because we can't block it even if we play Flesh Taker. So I think we need to kill this immediately to keep them off the +1/+1 counter value. We missed out on 1 Decayed Zombie worth of value, but we took our opponent off of 1 +1/+1 counter worth of value, potentially. Alright, now we'll just drop Procession and take the 1 to 5 damage that the Festival Crasher will do, whether or not they're casting instants or sorceries here. No casts, so 1 damage. We'll take it. I like Cathars here. Don't love playing Flesh Taker without the mana to sacrifice cards to it against a red deck, because they could have 3 damage spells to kill it if we don't have a mana up to give it +2/+2. So sure, we could curve out with these 2 mana cards instead, but rather get the Cathars out. And there's the 3 damage burn spell, so they'll use it on Cathars instead of Flesh Taker. That being said, they are smacking pretty hard here. If they cast another instant sorcery, they smack extra hard, but looks like just down to 13. Not horrible. Not horrible for us. Could Novice Occultist and Rite of Oblivion here? That seems pretty good to me. Exile this Spell Rune Painter, because it does slap pretty hard. Generally. We could play Flesh Taker and then Rite of Oblivion, but I still don't love getting a Flesh Taker out here. But if we play Flesh Taker then Rite of Oblivion, we do gain a life and scry 1 when we cast Rite of Oblivion and sacrifice our Decayed Zombie. You know, I suppose they're not going to use removal spell on our 1/1 or our 1/2, so if Flesh Taker is going to get removal spell, it's not like we can prevent that. Although, we can prevent the red ones. Yeah, we can prevent red removal spells by holding up mana when we play Flesh Taker. Let's just go for the Occultist here as the play this turn. And we're not going to chump block, so we'll send the 1/1 in. I will block the Festival Crasher with our 1/2, because then it makes them play an instant if they want to kill the Occultist. So if they do attack here, we'll force the block here, force the deal. foul play. Well, card crushed us last game. See how well it does here. It's not the worst foul play I've ever seen. They actually did spend the removal spell on the Novice Occultist. I was not expecting that at all. I guess they are getting very aggressive. And luckily we have a Lunarch Veteran now to help stop that, gaining us some life. Could even just recast Rite of Oblivion, sack this zombie, and get rid of Festival Crasher. That's all I really need to do. All I really need to do is stabilize here. That's my only removal spell left over, so if they play some big bomb next turn, like a 6-mana, 6/6 Flying Trample Mythic Rare Demon, which does exist in the set, I will be very out of luck. So I think we've just played good blockers here, and then actually hold up blocks and go for a 2-for-1 trade on the Crasher, so we have our removal for other cards later. Because they're down to 2 cards in hand. If we can just mitigate the damage from their cards on board long enough, like, we have more stuff to do than they will. Especially with Ghoulish Procession keeping us fueled this game. So yeah, like here, they cast a spell or something, but these will still trade here, and then I'll get another Decayed Zombie. Maybe take a little bit of damage, but not lethal. If they cast a burn spell here, they're using another removal spell on just like a 2/2. Alright. Nothing we could really do to stop that. If we blocked with Veteran as well, we would just be losing another creature here. Defenestrate's a sick draw. Makes us really safe to just kill the Crasher if we want to. If something disastrous happens. This exile's a non-land permanent, so Rite of Oblivion is actually just better than Defenestrate, but it is sorcery speed, and there are cards that exile cards from the grave in this format. There's that 5-mana 3/4 that makes 2 Decayed Zombies that does it. That people will just run in their decks all the time. So it might be worth casting Rite of Oblivion just so it can never be removed. Although we have enough mana to play Fleshtaker and Defenestrate here. Yeah, let's get a Fleshtaker out, hold up the mana for Defenestrate if we need to cast it. And if we don't need to cast it, we can use our mana to save our Fleshtaker if they try to do damage to it. But now we actually just sacrifice the zombies for the value, gain 2 more life, scry 2 cards here. Have us a delicious meal. Some zombie tokens. Don't want the land. Do I want the land? I've got 5 mana? No. Next up. Siege Zombie. Don't super want a Siege Zombie here. But we have Ghoulish Procession. Probably pan out pretty well. It's also just a creature, period. Yeah, we'll take a Siege Zombie. We're at 14 life, so if they attack with Festival Crasher now, we'll just take 1. Call it a day. Harvest Tide Infiltrator, 3/2 trample, flips to a 4/4 trample during the night. Get rid of that with our Midnight Ambush even during daytime, so we have found a new plan for this turn, which is to use the more situational removal. Get that out of here. We gain a life every time we get a Ghoulish Procession token. Veteran is really, really overperforming here. I'm gonna keep holding up the 3 for Defenestrate rather than playing the flyer here. Because I am scared here. Guess we attack with just Fleshtaker here, and if they block, we kill Crasher. If they don't block, we just save our zombie, because we can use it with Siege Zombie. Plus, if we sacrifice the zombie, we won't have the mana to Defenestrate. They are going to attack here. Alright, I'll force them to cast an instant here, and then if they do, we'll Defenestrate. Potential 2-for-1 here. In response to them trying to 2-for-1 us. Yeah, so now they're just using a removal spell on our mediocre card because we have the mana up to save Flesh Taker. So they basically use that removal spell for not great use, and we get to save the Siege Zombie. So that works pretty well. Just a land from our opponent and a Famished Foragers, a 4/3. They can discard cards to draw cards, so if they flood out hard here, they can still keep drawing cards. Alright. Now we could Rite of Oblivion, clear their board entirely. We have the mana to do that and bring back the Veteran. We will be out of removal if we do that, but now is where I am starting to feel really safe to do something like that. So I guess it again isn't necessary. It's just cool. It's not really necessary. They kind of just died at 2 hits from Flesh Taker. Like, we attack, they don't block, we just hit for 6 by sacking the zombies here. And then we just do it again next turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we can hold on to the removal here. We get to scry as well. I guess that's the thing to consider. We're gaining a lot of life and we're getting to scry for another piece of removal, so maybe it's okay to just get that one out of the way. Should we tap everything and just not block here? Yeah, we take 4. Let's just tap everything, no blocks here. These creatures are not expendable. Another Rite of Oblivion, okay. Alright, now I know we're incredibly safe to cast this one whenever we want to. Just sacrifice the Luminous Phantom now that we're at 20 life here. Get a Decayed Zombie out of it, use the Decayed Zombie for other purposes, like another Rite of Oblivion. And they do scoop them up here. That is going to be the game. Ghoulish Procession really taking names there. So 2-1 heading into round 4 now. Decent start with the sacrifice deck. Grabbing a drink in between rounds as always. Gotta keep my throat alive. Alright. Really don't like the lack of black mana, but as soon as we hit one, this hand's excellent. I really need a refresher on when and when I shouldn't mulligan in limited, because I feel like I've been keeping a lot of hands like this lately and getting max punished. I've gotten just really greedy with my mulligans lately because it does feel like mulliganing to 6 so often. Just going down a card is just as painful as missing a few land drops. Yeah, I'm really no longer certain that I know when or when not to mulligan, because I'm just gonna keep this. And we are waiting for that swamp. And there it is. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we should have kept this hand, that just means that we got lucky and got rewarded. So I don't want to teach you all bad habits like that. Just a 1/1 here. We can attack in. If something happens, we have multiple removal spells to save the zombie. Alright, nothing happened. So I guess Bereaved Survivor here. If they kill our Siege Zombie with a removal spell, they flip our Survivor and then we bring it back. Yeah, I'm into that. Brings back small creatures. Creatures with mana value 2 or less every time it attacks on the flip side. And to get it to flip, we have to have one of our creatures die. So Broodweaver is the play. I would love to exile that. But I would also not love exiling... I wouldn't love sacrificing any of my cards right now. I guess with a Flesh Taker out, we get decent value. Oh yeah, no, we have a sick combo here. Oh my god, this is the best I've ever seen Bereaved Survivor be. We're going to exile Broodweaver, sacrifice Siege Zombie. It's going to flip Bereaved Survivor. Then we can bring back the Siege Zombie. We can bring back the Siege Zombie by just attacking with our 3-2 here. We also get to gain a life and scry one. We do want a 5th land for the Behemoth, but we don't have anything we want to sacrifice to the Behemoth yet, but I think I'm still going to keep the land on top. If they don't play like a good blocker next turn, then we can just sacrifice the Siege Zombie again and bring it back again to the Avenger. Like that can be how we choose to cast Behemoth. They do play a good blocker, so we'll just sacrifice it to the Rite of Oblivion and bring it back to Avenger. Whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, put a counter on it, so it's still just a 1-1, and it will still just be a 1-1, so we just cast Rite of Oblivion again here to exile the Hauler, sacrificing Siege Zombie again. That is disgusting. Oh my god. You gotta feel for our opponent there. That is... I've been talking crap on Bereaved Survivor so much. This is the first time it has just gone nuts. Bereaved Survivor with Rite of Oblivion. The Rite of Oblivion keeps the blockers out of the way so the Avenger can keep attacking, and the Avenger keeps bringing back the sacrificial fodder to sacrifice to the Rite of Oblivions. Good lord, I would not want to have been my opponent this game. So that gets exiled. All they could possibly do is chump block. We're attacking for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I get to scry 1 again. I have 2 more removal spells in hand as backup. They're down to 2 cards in hand because we 2-for-1 them twice with Rite of Oblivion and got back our creatures. That was a disgusting match there, and that is going to quickly lead into our 3rd win, 3-1, heading into round 5 now. All right. Well, both colors, only 2 lands, but both colors. This, I'm sure this is a keep. If you have both colors and only 2 lands, you're a little bit scared, but it's a keep. If you have just 1 color and 2 lands, that's where I'm probably too greedy. Jack-o'-lantern. To start things off, they can exile a card from a grave and draw a card, so they can shut off one of our flashbacking removal spells. We did immediately draw the plains, so immediately rewarded to be able to cast Gavony Dawnguard turn 3, which is excellent. We have Bereaved Survivor as well. We saw that just rock some pants off last game, but I don't believe this is the board state for it. We don't have any sacrifice effects, and right now nothing in our graveyard, so get the Dawnguard out here. Nice, and they've cashed in the Jack-o'-lantern before we've drawn our flashback cards, so they might be safe. Also, before we played Bereaved Survivor, if we had this on the board, they would know they can exile a creature with mana value 2 or less to keep it from coming back later. So it is nice that they had to spend that just to cycle it before they could exile anything. Ooh, and a rough turn for our opponent. They don't have anything they can play there, which means it flips to night, so we get that day-night value. Definitely a sad time for our opponent here. I think we take Flesh Taker, even though we don't have any ways to sacrifice. We can just use the Flesh Taker to sacrifice things. Although Morning Patrol, kind of better on its own. Maybe it's Morning Patrol. I don't know. I'm going to take Flesh Taker. It's close. See if we're getting in here. Moon Rager Slash. They'll pay the ward cost to kill the Dawnguard. Alright, that makes sense then. Suppose they could have just cast a Moon Rager Slash during their turn to shoot Siege Zombie and keep it from turning to night. But if they did that, they wouldn't have the Slash to kill the Dawnguard, so I don't feel as bad for our opponent. Because they could have chosen to flip to stay in the day if they really, really wanted to. Play the Survivor here and then play Flesh Taker next turn. Just because it makes the most of our mana. And it's possible we can play Flesh Taker and sacrifice a card the turn we play it, because it costs 3 mana to do that, but we can't attack with Bereaved Survivor the turn we play Bereaved Survivor. Yeah, I'm going to play... This might be stupid, but I'm going to play Bereaved Survivor. If the board stays clear like this, like if they're just going to be... If they play some draw spell here, which is possible, then this lends to a potential really good turn next turn where we can do the Siege Zombie play. Play Flesh Taker, sack Siege Zombie, bring it back to the Survivor. But the board does not stay clear. Luckily for us, it is nighttime, so we can give that -13, -13. So, good enough. It's clear enough for our tastes right now. Do I want to run Flesh Taker into their removal? They already know we have it, so if they have some kind of removal, they're not going to throw it at a Siege Zombie. They know Flesh Taker's coming. The only thing is we don't get to hold mana up for it here, but that's fine. Let's get it out there. Get it out of the way. Ready for its big moment next turn if it is not dealt with. And if it is dealt with, it flips Bereaved Survivor, and Bereaved Survivor might bring it back. We will see. So our opponent is down to 12 now. 5 mana up, though, in their red, blue, and black deck. Pretty good mana base from our opponent. We see a Shipwreck Marsh, the blue-black dual land, and Evolving Wilds. So pretty great mana base from them. Ooh, Defenestrate is the draw. Excellent. Oh, we could get tricked really hard here. If they have instant speed removal, sacrificing something to Flesh Taker pre-combat to flip Survivor and bring something back pans out really poorly. Because then we could sacrifice Siege Zombie to Flesh Taker and they could respond by killing Bereaved Survivor. Then we've lost Bereaved Survivor and Siege Zombie permanently just to get in for 4 with Flesh Takers. That, I think we're actually just not sacrificing anything here because they have 5 mana up in a red deck where pretty much all the removal is instant speed. Like, things can just go too poorly. They could flash in the 3/3 flyer. That wouldn't be good for us. The 2/1 flyer is less bad, I think, but it's still pretty bad. Okay. So shut off the Siege Zombie here. See what they choose to trade with. They're going to eat the Siege Zombie. Okay, so we can just sacrifice it, flip our Survivor, get 1 more damage in that way. Actually, 3 more damage. 2 more damage from Flesh Taker, 1 more from Survivor. The Survivor won't bring it back, but because the zombie's going to die without dealing any damage anyway, we sacrifice it here and hold up the mana for Defenestrate, I think. We'll also gain a life and scry 1 here, and we're definitely looking for lands. We have a 5 and 6 mana powerful card here. They're going to Midnight Ambush the Survivor. Alright, that's fine. They could have done that whenever, and it would be the same end result. So I don't know. Feels like they're being a little fancy doing it now. We could just sacrifice that as well. If I don't want to hold up Defenestrate, that's fine. They're only creatures flying. We can't kill it with Defenestrate, so let's get that extra damage in. Get that extra damage and get that 1 more scry. Audric's Outrider's so good. That's a hard card to scry to the bottom, but I'm going to do it. There we go. There's the 5th mana. We're not exactly playing Behemoth next turn, but I really want to get to Dreadhound mana because they're down to 6 now, so Dreadhound can very much finish off a game. We've seen that happen in our first game or 2. And in red, blue, black, I doubt they have much in terms of life gain. Falconwrath Perforator, 2/1 that damages us for 1 damage every time it attacks. And the Spell Rune Howler, the 3/4 that gets +2/+2 as they cast instants and sorceries. However, they cast 2 spells that turn, so it does flip back to the normal side. They have 6 power and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toughness. 6 power, 5 toughness. We attack with Flesh Taker, sack Siege Zombie. We have a 4/4, and then we can Defenestrate one of their creatures and clear their whole board, but our Flesh Taker would die too. So I don't think we have a great attack because our Flesh Taker would die. Yeah, all we could really do is clear their whole board if they block with everybody. I guess they could block with Perforator and Spellrune Painter. If they block with just 2 creatures, it will blow up in their face, so it might be worth trying, especially with a Dreadhound coming up. Let's see if they derp it up. They probably won't mess it up here, but it's possible. Okay. Alright. So, yeah. Trade Siege Zombie into killing both of those. And get our 6th land for Dreadhound. And there's the 6th land for Dreadhound. Alright. I guess that wasn't the greatest deal ever, because we did have to sacrifice Siege Zombie. So we did spend 2 cards to kill their 2 cards. It's not like it was a 2-for-1 or anything. So maybe I shouldn't have went for the attack. Because the end result was not as good as I thought it was, even though they blocked how I would have wanted them to block. Removal for Flesh Taker now? Yep. Alright, does our Dreadhound just make it in? It does. Hit some creatures. Yes, we hit 2 creatures, hit them for 2 life immediately. They're at 4, and we've got the 6/6 Dreadhound on board. We hit 1 more land, we can cast our Behemoth even without a card to sacrifice to it. And if we don't hit a land, that means we have something castable. Unless we hit like a Rite of Oblivion, that would be sad. So just some blockers here. They could double block with a 4/2 Phoenix and a 2/3. In which case 3 creatures die and they go to 1 life, and then we play a big menace card. So I think we attack, right? Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, they can spend 2 to bring it back to the battlefield. So we're putting them to 1 life attacking with Dreadhound here. Like, their best block is the double block with Painter and Phoenix. And then three creatures are dying for Dreadhound. So they're going to 1. Yeah, let's put them to 1. And then play a 7/6 Menace on this board. Alright. They have to clear out a 7/6 Menace or play another blocker. And if they play another blocker, the only way it's going to pan out well for them is if it's big enough to double block and trade for the Behemoth. If they have to chump block with 2 creatures, we're still in a very good position. So really, they just need like a black removal spell like Defenestrate here. They might have a Blade Brand here, and that's our only hope. Definitely gonna not block here. I don't think there's any removal spell that's like if your opponent lost life, then kill a creature. There's like if your opponent lost life, deal a couple damage to a creature, but not 6 damage. There's the 3-mana 2/2 that if your opponent lost life, deal damage to a creature equal to the number of vampires you control, that would deal 2 damage. So I'm not worried about the lose life stuff. I'm much more worried about Blade Brand giving that first striker death touch to defeat our 7/6. So it looks like whatever they had there was not going to deal with the 7/6 Menace, so we will take that one to victory there. 4-1 with our right to Flesh Take. Pretty disgusting name. We've been eating a lot of zombies today with our Flesh Taker. You know, our Flesh Taker's just in the room as the decayed zombies are dying, and it's just deciding that that would be a good meal. One thing you have to accept about the lore in this set is if you're casting Flesh Takers, you are a part of the cannibalism. You are gaining the life. The Flesh Taker isn't gaining the life. You're gaining the life. So what does that mean lore-wise? Oh! I'm dropping stuff. I scared myself with my little spooky story there. Even if we hit black mana here, this hand's kind of weird. It is really good. I mean, Ghoulish Procession and then just keep killing all their creatures and getting decayed zombies. And then sacrifice 1 for Behemoth late game. Is this another Greed Keep? I feel like it's awkward enough I am going to mulligan it this time. Because it's very reactive. If our opponent does nothing, we also do nothing, even if we hit black. So, if our opponent just plays draw spells, they're living the dream if they're playing a blue deck over there. So I am going to mulligan. And there we go. Much more reasonable white and black here. I don't love getting rid of Dreadhound, but it's also 6 mana, so no guarantee that's ever happening anytime soon. I don't really want to get rid of Lunarch Veteran, even though it is pretty low impact. Like, maybe it is getting rid of Lunarch Veteran. I don't think it's getting rid of any of the removal. Maybe one of them. You know, hedge our bets. We've got 2 Midnight Ambushes. Get rid of one of them. That's an option. It is certainly not a land if we're keeping our 6 mana card. Let's get funky with it. Let's get funky fresh today. We're going to drop 1 removal spell there. Because now we have an early gameplay, a late gameplay, and a piece of interaction. So it just leaves our hand the most versatile, so that's fair enough. We drew really well here. We draw into the 2-drop Flesh Taker. Pretty much the best 2-mana creature in our deck. Our good old friend, who I will remind you is a human under all that. Human Assassin. Slaughter Specialist. Well, thank you for the human token, opponents. I will make sure to make good use of it. However, when our creatures die, they get a +1/+1 counter, so this is just really good against our deck, so I think we Infernal Grasp the Specialist here. Just get it out of the way, because otherwise it's just going to be massive. This is like the worst matchup, or the best matchup for this card. Yeah, this will get really big, so let's get rid of it right now. I guess we could attack with just Flesh Taker, and maybe they'll think that we screwed up and we sacrifice this for a 4/4 to trade into their 4/4. That way we might be able to hold on to Infernal Grasp for something else. Alright. We're not going to be able to hold on to Infernal Grasp for something else. So we lost out on 2 damage to allow our opponent to make the misplay there blocking. Because if they had blocked, we could use Midnight Ambush to kill it instead. Because our deck doesn't actually have ways to flip it to night. So we need to rely on them playing a werewolf and eventually it becoming night for this to do -13, -13. So Midnight Ambush is just kind of the strictly worst removal in our hand there by far. So if we could get that to die to the strictly worst removal, that would be fantastic for us. Alright, well this is gonna be a bad game for us. Crawl from the Cellar means they get to recast this here, but they don't. Huh. Now I'm really confused. So I was going to say Crawl from the Cellar means they get to cast this 3 times. We're going to have to fight through this card multiple times, and every time it's going to be quite good. Ooh, Rite of Oblivion, though. Never mind, now we're safe. Rite of Oblivion can fight through that and exile it so they can't bring it back again, even with Crawl from the Cellar. So really suspicious they didn't play the 2-mana card there. So I'm moderately scared, but we have an instant speed -2/-2 trick here, so we'll be fine. We will be fine. Let's see what they wanted to do here. Nothing. Huh. They might have just clicked 1 too many times. They might have meant to recast that. If they did recast it, we would have sacrificed the 1/1 to exile it, and we'd still be in a pretty good position there, but it is always a bummer when something like that happens, and I'm like, I don't even know why I won there. I don't know what happened. Super possible our opponent just had something come up, but that was a disorienting enough game that I don't even know our record right now, but I think we have 1 loss and 5 wins, something like that, so we're doing really good with our black-white sacrifice deck. Definitely very happy with it. Very, very happy with it here. And a Voldaren Stinger will start things from our opponent. A 1/2 will block that very well. This has first strike when it's attacking, and for 3 mana they can buff it up. So if they buff it up enough, it's a big old first striker that can kill pretty much anything. So Very important to keep that in mind when you're choosing whether or not to block it, and I just realized I might not have done that in the last game they played it. They might have been trying to get the sneak, use the +2/+0 ability a bunch to kill our 7/6 menace a few games ago. We're not going to attack with our occultist here. Let's just play a morning patrol. If they attack with this stinger, if they play like a third land and attack with the stinger, we're just gonna block there. It always feels weird to me when people use their removal on our 1/2 that draws us a card. I guess they're just playing much more aggressive decks than I'm playing right now. I play just like your standard kind of mid-rangey, somewhat aggressive decks. But I'm happy every time my 1/2 dies to their removal, because it gets that removal out of the way for our better creatures later to potentially stick around. I think we're going to defenestrate the 3/2 trample. I think that's big enough, especially because during the night it'll be a 4/4 trample. And this way we get in with the morning patrol. I suppose if they trade here, then that's even better, because then we just recast the morning patrol. Alright, so they don't trade here, so we'll defenestrate. I guess we're out of removal if we do this, but how likely am I to play removal next turn? Not unless they play something really good, because I'm going to play a 3/4 flyer, then I'm going to play a 6/6. So we have our plans for the next couple turns. Let's get a play done this turn. I did it while they were tapped out, so that I wouldn't flip tonight, because even if they're only werewolf on board, wouldn't... well, it would flip, but then it would die. All their werewolves in hand all of a sudden would start coming out as their nighttime versions, and we just don't want that to happen, because then they're just going to come into play as bigger creatures. Should be threatening. So if we attack here, we're trading into the Lambhole Terrier. Not the worst trade ever, especially when we can disturb this back as a flyer. Although, I think we just want to spend all our mana on this. And I'm not super worried about trades here. Yeah. Just play the Soulguide Griffin past turn, I think. Hold it as a blocker. If they have the Ardent Elementalist, I actually want to exile their instants and sorceries. That's the 4-mana 2/1 that brings back an instant or sorcery from their grave when it enters the battlefield. Pretty impressive card. A Purifying Dragon from our opponent. Well, we don't have the removal to deal with that, but we have a 3/4 to block it. And of course, our removal to deal with it was a Defenestrate, which can't kill flyers anyway, so it still looks okay that we killed that werewolf warrior. And now we just play a Dreadhound and pass the turn, I guess. And then we can start attacking with a Dreadhound. Oh, we just milled 3 creatures, didn't we? That is fantastic. And it sounds like I just got another follower on Twitch. I do record my videos in the same program that I stream with, so you're going to hear those now and then. Alright. Wasn't expecting this, but they're going to spend all of their mana. They're going to spend their turn getting aggressive here, and we draw into the removal for the Purifying Dragon. Excellent. I like the attack all here, sure. We trade for one of these two, but we get the good activated ability off the board. They just take it all. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Down to 4 life. Sure thing. I guess we could do this at instant speed, because it's still going to be nighttime. It's still going to be minus 13, minus 13. So we can wait until they move to combat here. Alright. Do we get the dragon? I guess now if they have some kind of weird combat trick that would save something that's getting minus 13, they could cast it here, but looks like there is not that kind of card in their deck. And we will level up from Platinum Tier 1 to Diamond Tier 4 this draft, which is absolutely excellent. We are one rank away from... Not one rank, we're quite a few tiers away from Mythic, but Diamond and Mythic are sort of one rank away, so that's pretty cool. And we are 6-1 with this deck. Alright. Really happy with this deck overall as we head into the potential final boss. I have really liked Bereaved Survivor more than I thought I would. Huge fan of all the removal in the deck. It's all excellent, but we knew that before. Any other cards I want to talk about that I might have misjudged? The Lunarch Veteran, that 1-mana 1/1 that just gains some life, then comes back as a flyer that gains some life. Card has actually just done some work, which was just weird to me. Usually the little life gainers are just not good unless you're drafting in a Johnny's Pridemate deck specifically, like if you're in a cube draft or something like that, but here, just nice little recastable cheap creature. It's been fine. I definitely wouldn't say it's impressive or it's a high pick, but I was treating it before as the kind of card that you would pretty much never play, and I do not think it's that bad. I do not think that's the case. I'm actually happy to have it in this deck rather than have it sitting in the sideboard and playing something else. So this game, I am going to go ahead and just play Ghoulish Procession first. I think that was probably an error in an earlier round where I chose to keep playing our creatures because I really wanted to have a creature on board when I played Ghoulish Procession so it doesn't sit there doing nothing for a turn. But I think it's better to just have that guarantee that every creature you have that dies is going to spit out a 2-2. So Shipwreck Sifters is a 2-3 here. We could defenestrate it, and that is going to be an issue. They did mill. They discarded a Generous Soul. That is not good. That's going to be a 6-mana 4/4 flyer later on. So definitely want to hold on to Infernal Grasp. If we play Siege Zombie, we block the 1/1, but we still take 2. I think I'm still going to play Siege Zombie here. Just take 2 damage instead of 3 by blocking the Lunarch Veteran. Against white and blue, they might not actually do that much killing our creatures, so I don't know how many Decayed Zombies we'll get. Their removal is likely to be Exile and Enchantment based. Keep our stuff tapped or exile it or anything like that. Alright, well, Ambitious Farmhand is nice. Do we want to defenestrate the Sifters yet? Take another 2. This will turn into a 3/3 lifelinker eventually, but not super soon. Yeah, we're still just not going to block the Sifters well here. And we'll take 2 in the sky now as well, so we get on to 13. I feel like I still want to play Farmhand, though. Get that double white ready for it, and if we draw another creature, we can flip it next turn and get some life gain out of it. Kind of a risky, like risk-reward line here, where we do need to draw another creature for the Farmhand play to be pretty good. Because we really want it to flip to be a lifelinker. Devoted Graphkeeper. They mill 2 cards when they play it. They can cast spells from their graveyard. Well, they could always do that. They're disturb spells. Whenever they cast their disturb spells, though, they will be tapping our stuff. They're at 4 mana now, so they're 2 mana away from bringing the 4/4 Flying Vigilance out. And I think for that reason, I'm not going to Infernal Grasp the Falcon Abomination, because I would like to save it for the 4/4 Flying Vigilance, not the 2/2 flyer. So, well, they're not attacking with the Sifters, so at least there's that, but we certainly have no pressure against everything they have on their board here. Now they have a really good Disturb card. This comes back as a 3/1 flyer, so they can really go over our board state. They can just attack with Graphkeeper, and they're happy with any trade it takes, because then they'll just get a flyer on board. Seems like they do not want to do that, though. I could take the 2 here, or I could do the Grasp still. Again, I do want to have it for the 4/4 flyer, but if they miss land drops here, then we don't know how long it's going to be till they play the 4/4 flyer. Yeah, maybe I should have done this earlier. I'm going to do it now. I'm a pretty scattered-brained player of Magic. Definitely love the drafting process. I think I'm pretty solid there, but get to the gameplay and got a lot of different directions that my head wants to go. Unfortunately, they have the counter spell there for that anyway, so it wouldn't really matter. And they are going to have the mana for the 6-drop. Alright, well, defenestrate. Do we want to defenestrate anything? No, we're good. Another Siege Zombie. Things are looking bad for our heroes this game. Just no flying defense against some more flyers coming out here. Yep, and there we go. Well, if I stuck to my guns, they would tap out for the flyer, so they wouldn't have the mana to counter the removal there. So we would have actually stopped the 4/4 Flying Vigilance, so that's a bummer. taking so much damage we can't afford to take this hit here. I think we actually trade with a siege zombie because it just takes one draw to potentially turn this into a life linker. And then we get much more value off of blocking with it. This does give them access to the 2 mana 3/1 flyer here, or the 3 mana 3/1 flyer. But when they have the 6 mana 4/4 flying vigilance, it doesn't really matter. They're just going to cast that here, and we're dead in 2 turns to those 2 coming in. Or they'll go Brutal Cathar. Alright. I mean, that's an option. And get rid of the farmhand. Okay. Unless they have another counterspell in hand, this is probably the best line they could have played for us. Because now we get to kill the Cathar, get the farmhand back, and get another land out of our deck, so we thin our deck a little bit. It's like, this goes really well for us. If they just played the 4/4 Flying Vigilance, we would be really, really bad time. Now we're only having a very bad time. There's the Outrider. If this Decayed Zombie dies, we get a permanent +1/+1 counter onto something, which means that we can trigger Coven, because we'll have a 1, a 2, and a 3. Sure, they block there, but this can't block anyway, so let's get that value out of it here. Now we can flip our farmhand, and we can do that anytime, right? Yep, we can do that anytime, so we will probably do it later. So we take 5 and go to 6. I just passed the turn. I think they just want to hold up counterspells the whole game, I guess. They don't know what's in our hand, they don't know what we could top deck, so it's fair enough. Bereaved Survivor. They have a 2/3 and a 1/1 to actually block with. So our Cathar gets in, we gain enough life to survive another hit from the Flyers. We actually already have enough life to survive another hit. We take 5 and go to 1. But I think we still need to attack with the Cathar here, so we get the Survivor out first. So that will flip. Devious Cover-Up, sure. I think our opponent here is doing what I do a lot, where I can't find the right moments to choose between holding my counterspells up and just getting aggressive. Here we're like, I'm at 6 life and they have the ability to cast a 4/4 Flying Vigilance. I think they would just be in a better position casting a 4/4 Flying Vigilance. But it's a mistake I make a boatload. That's why I tend not to run counterspell decks anymore, because I'm just so bad at them. But it's definitely the kind of thing that I do so often that I feel like I'm seeing in our opponent here a bit. Like, we could probably have just been dead by now if they played some different lines. And I'm not saying that to say that our opponent's bad or anything, and also I'm not paying attention right now because I'm trying to get my point out. I'm just trying to analyze stuff, see what we could do better, and see what our opponent could do better as well, just while I'm thinking about it. So it's just one of the things that I learned that is just the kind of advice that a lot of players had given me in the past, is like, whether you win or if you want to get better at Magic, then whether you win or lose a game doesn't really matter. Try to play to get better. So like any game that you win or lose, try to look back on it and see what lines you could have taken better. I'm kind of bad at that. Like often I'll win a game and be like, yeah, super won, it didn't matter, whatever. But I feel like I've gotten pretty decent at every game I lose, trying to go back and like seeing what I could have done better and seeing, you know, what plays were it like my fault that we lost some value or lost some points of damage or anything like that. Anyways, I don't know where that came from. I don't know what my brain's doing today. But you know how it is. It's just the human condition. Alright, so Ludovic Necrogenius. Super scary, big, super massive flip card kind of thing here. We're just going to attack in. I have no idea why they would block here, but if they do, we will eat that Ludovic up. And I think we go Gavany Dawnguard here, not because I'm particularly trying to get a lot of value off of it, but by casting it, we start the day-night cycle, and if we flip to night, this will actually give -13, and we can get rid of Ludwig. I just think it's important to get rid of Ludwig here, so I'm just trying to get it to be nighttime any way I can. So they can't Silverbolt our Dawnguard because they need another mana for the ward ability, but they could have another removal in their hand. They could Silverbolt our Flesh Taker, which would be a little bit sad, but more scared of our opponent's rare than I am of them stopping what we're doing here. This just becomes like a 4/4 copy of whatever they exile from their grave with some +1/+1 counters on it, equal to the number of exiled creatures. I guess it's not like disastrously scary, but still definitely scary enough to use our removal on. We have Defenestrate and Midnight Ambush. I actually don't know which is more narrow. Both of them can kill Ludwig, but I need to decide which is the more narrow removal spell here. Which one would I rather have again later? I guess I could also just use Midnight Ambush because it costs 2, that way I can cast 2 cards this turn. Because I could attack with 2 creatures and Party Captain costs 2. Can't cast 2 black spells here, I only have 1 black source. Yeah, if we go to combat and they just let it happen, yeah, we'll attack both. And then our plan is to Midnight Ambush and search Party Captain here. And I guess there's no reason to kill Ludovic after combat here. We'll just kill it right now. Unless they're holding a counter spell here. Alright, well. Also just sack Dawnguard to kill it. Yeah, that panned out pretty poorly, but I think this trade is still good. But I do wonder if they would have blocked or not if we waited. Because if they would have blocked if we waited anyway, then we shouldn't have done that regardless. Alright, so they have 4 cards in hand, we have 4 cards in hand, they have a Decayed Zombie. We're at parity here, it's not bad for us or anything. We get aggressive or we draw cards. We have plenty of cards to cast here, let's get aggressive. A 3/3 and a 1/1 on the board. Alright, Oregon Hoarder. 4 cards in hand to 4 cards in hand. Still, 3/2 on board to a 3/3 and a 1/1 on board. Pretty much at parity again. We're doing fine. Don't want to Rite of Oblivion the Oregon Hoarder, that's for sure. Don't really need to remove it, but if I remove it, I get to attack with everything freely and drop the Captain draw a card here. So I'm going to do that so we can keep our 3/3 around and get more damage in. But we are going down a card here. Now we have 3, they have 4, plus whatever they've drawn here. Alright, they've got something in their hand that wants a creature to die this turn, I suppose. So they are cashing in the zombie. Arrogant Outlaw. Oh, they have something in hand that wants them to deal damage to us. Fair enough. Definitely still not worth the block there. Ooh, the land for the Dreadhound. Beautiful. I want to just run that out here and slam in. We mill a few cards. They lose life for every creature we hit. Every time creatures trade, they lose a life, so I'm pretty cool attacking with everything here as well. I'm probably not the 1/1, but if we lose the 3/3, that's fine. If the 3/3 trades down a tiny bit to get extra damage in here. We milled a Rite of Oblivion, which is excellent. Things are looking up right now. I guess they can they exile the Rite of Oblivion? No. The Jack-o'-lantern exiles on the first half. In the graveyard, it just adds mana of any color, so they can't exile the Rite of Oblivion. So they're going to draw a card off of our top 2 with Siphon Insight. We will see what they draw. Unfortunately, our deck has a lot of good removals, so they might just defenestrate our Dreadhound out of our own deck here. That would be a bummer. They do get to recast the Siphon Insight as well, so draw another card off of our top 2. Card seems pretty good to me. It's like Think Twice, but from your opponent's library. Think Twice was an old instant, blue and 1 to draw a card, then a blue and 2 to draw a card. It's pretty much that. But slightly better, because you do get to choose out of 2 cards instead of just 1. So Novice Occultist is what they picked up here. Pretty decent, a trump block plus a card draw. And they do just have a Locked in the Cemetery there. So they just had removal for Dreadhound. Gonna leave it on the board here rather than sacrifice it to Rite of Oblivion because... oh wow, they have the reanimation effect for Ludwig to recast that here. Well, we'll get ready to exile Ludwig with a Rite of Oblivion. But I'm going to leave Dreadhound on the board so that they take more damage as creatures die here. And I also think... I'm just going to attack in. They can draw another card here, but they'll lose a life. And I don't really want to use removal on the Occultist. I guess it's not terrible to do so, because stopping them from drawing a card is definitely good. And they lose a life from the token plus 2 from this, so they'll take 3 damage this turn. Sure. Yeah. You know what? No. No, let's save our removal, I think. They're going to take the draw, but they lose 2 here, go to 10. And we cast our Siege Zombie now. Four mana, so that's not a Ludovic, that's an Organ Hoarder as the play. We hit them for 5 if we clear that out of the way. I mean, they lose a life when we sacrifice the human, so that's 1 plus the 4 damage here, so yeah, hit them for 5 here. They milled a creature here, so they take another damage. Oh, they just have the mana for Ludovic as well. Alright, well, we need to clear both out of the way. Ambitious Farmhand is the draw. We do have Coven for that card. So... I like clearing out Ludovic with Rite of Oblivion. And then... Farmhand with the mana to flip it. So I like casting the non-flashback version of Rite, even though they'll know that we have it now. So bam, shoot that down. Now they take 4, or they trade with Siege Zombie and take 3, which is still fine. They go to 5 life there, and we'll still have Coven with Farmhand, because we'll have a 1-1, a 2-2, and a 6-6 out. Yeah, so they're down to 4. Actually, yeah, take the trade, and they they lose a life for each creature that died on either side of the board. I don't know what the auto tapper's doing here, so let's not let that happen. I guess we didn't play a land this turn, so it wouldn't matter. They already know that's a plane, so we might as well get that out there, and they know we don't have instants. So, flip to the 3/3 lifelinker. We can sacrifice our tapped down Dreadhound to clear out a creature. They have 3 cards in hand. We can get rid of one of them and make them lose a life when we sack the creature. They're at 4 life here, we're at 17. They have the card advantage, but they're really low on life, facing against potential for 2 removal spells here. We do have the 8 mana to cast both of them, but we will have to sacrifice 2 creatures if we want to cast both of them. But it's possible we do that. If they just tap out for 2 really good creatures, then we can win the game by sacrificing the captain to exile one, sacrificing the Dreadhound to exile the other. So, being able to do that seems sweet here. We'll see what they have. There are certainly ways out of this one. They have a lot of cards to potentially find that way out. They're going to defenestrate the Dreadhound, so they're not getting life drained here. Go to 3. And then play a hobbling zombie? Okay, well that must be the best they had, but won't do it here because we get to exile it, so they don't get the decayed zombie out of it. Even if they did, decayed zombies can't block, so Seasoned Cathar hits for 3 with lifelink. That will be the victory. That'll be the 7th win for the deck. And yeah, 7-2. So again, I think this was a really sweet deck, super sweet draft deck here. Definitely made some mistakes in the gameplay, as I always do, but the deck was sweet enough to make up for it for a 7-win run here. So really nice deck. Here's one final look at it, but that is going to end today's video. If you are having fun with the limited content, then make sure to stick around on the channel. You can like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know you're enjoying the videos and you'd like it to spread them to yourself and others. And with that out of the way, just thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.